In the world of organized crime, there are names that are not simply written in reports, but carved into the memory of entire nations through fear. Names that, when spoken, can change the atmosphere of a city, shut down businesses, empty streets, and freeze daily life. Among those names stands El Mencho, a man who was not just a cartel boss, but became a symbol of modern terror and one of the most influential criminal figures in contemporary Mexican history. His real name is Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, a man who began his life far from the spotlight, only to rise into the ranks of the world's most wanted, not because of fame, but because of the consequences that follow the mention of his name. El Mencho's story is not a typical rise to power narrative. It is the story of an entire system built on fear and discipline. In his early years, he was not very different from many others who entered the criminal world seeking money or influence. What set him apart, however, was his deep understanding of power. He realized early on that control is not achieved by weapons alone, but by speed of decision, absolute loyalty, and the ability to respond without hesitation. Over time, he became the supreme leader and mastermind of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, an organization that completely reshaped the balance of power among cartels and imposed a new model of highly organized violence. This cartel did not rely solely on traditional criminal methods. Instead, it adopted a structure closer to a military organization, a clear chain of command, strict hierarchy, and orders that were never questioned. Any threat, no matter how small, was met with an even stronger response, not out of emotion, but out of strategy. The goal was not simply revenge, but deterrence. The message was always the same. Getting close to this organization meant stepping into a fire with no escape. Over time, these messages became louder and more terrifying because their effects were visible within hours. Whenever authorities moved closer to El Mencho's inner circle, or when rumors spread about the arrest of one of his sons or top lieutenants, entire cities would fall into paralysis. Roads were blocked, vehicles burned, transportation halted, and fear took control. These actions were not random acts of chaos. They were calculated moves designed to apply pressure and force the state to retreat or reconsider. The message was unmistakable. We will respond, and the cost will be high. As his influence expanded, El Mencho stopped being just a domestic threat inside Mexico. The trafficking networks under his control extended far beyond the border, with direct consequences inside the United States. This escalation led U.S. authorities to classify him as a direct threat, not only in terms of organized crime, but also to national security. In a rare move that reflected the seriousness of the threat, the United States announced a reward of up to $15 million for information leading to his capture. It was an extraordinary amount, reserved for only the most dangerous figures. Yet, despite this, his story did not end. The obvious question remains, why has he not been captured despite years of pressure and international pursuit? The answer is complex. El Mencho did not rely solely on hiding. He built a sophisticated protection network based on fear, loyalty, and silence. In many regions, people understood that speaking out could mean death, not only for themselves, but for their families as well. This collective fear created an invisible shield, stronger than walls or bunkers. Even when authorities came close, the response was often swift and violent, turning any arrest operation into a potential national crisis. Because of this, many observers began comparing El Mencho to legendary crime figures of the past. Some went further, claiming he was more dangerous than Pablo Escobar, not because of global fame, but because of his ability to directly control the daily reality of an entire country. El Mencho operated in a different era, one of surveillance, digital tracking, and global media. Yet, despite this, he managed to impose a terrifying equation: a criminal organization capable of challenging state institutions and shutting down large regions within hours without public appearances or speeches. Over time, his name became more than an identity. It became a symbol of the failure of traditional approaches to organized crime and of how discipline and calculated violence can overpower institutions. Every operation against him was followed by escalation. Every attempt to capture him opened the door to renewed chaos. This led many to ask a deeper question. Is the problem El Mencho himself, or the system that allowed someone like him to rise? And even if he were captured, would that truly end the cycle, or would someone else simply take his place? Today, El Mencho's fate remains unknown. There are no recent images, no confirmed public appearances, only consequences, events, and shadows that remind the world that the story is far from over. The reward remains active, the pursuit continues, but the ending is still unclear. Will he ever be captured, or will his name remain a dark legend, operating from the shadows, while Mexico continues to pay the price of a long and complex conflict? What is certain is that El Mencho's story is not just about one man. It is the story of an entire era, an era in which violence became a language, fear became a tool of control, and silence became survival. And as long as the answer remains unknown, the fire can reignite at any moment, and the name El Mencho will continue to exist, even in silence.